Hi guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat podcast channel. My name is Mina and today I am here to show you how to work the smock stitch. Now this is a stitch pattern that I have included in my Rome socks, which is part of my Around the World in 8 Socks pattern club, which is running throughout 2021. If you are interested and haven't heard about it, I will link a video down below where I talk all about the club and what's involved. You can join at any time, even though the club's already started. That's not a problem. You can hop on at any point. It is not it's not restrictive in any way like that at all. So I'll have it linked down below that video, plus it's available for purchase on Ravelry and Payhip at the moment. So we're 2 months in. The third month pattern is Rome, and that's going to be coming out on the 1st of May. And so in advance of that, I wanted to film a little tutorial for this stitch, because there's actually 3 different ways of performing this stitch or knitting this stitch that I've come up with. I only have one method written out in the pattern just because it's the one that's easiest to explain in writing, and that's why I wanted to make this video, to show you the 2 other methods, because I actually think the 2 other methods are probably easier and less cumbersome than the method that's written out in the pattern. But like I said, because it's the one that's easiest to explain, is the one that's included. So what I'm doing today is I'm actually doing it with 2 different colors of yarn. In the pattern you're only doing it with 1 color of yarn. I'm only using a second color so you can really see the stitches. It's not going to be like this in the pattern, although I guess it could if you wanted to, or this could be its own little pattern. I'm not actually knitting the pattern right now. I'm just knitting a stockinette tube and just to demonstrate the stitches to you. So essentially what you want to do is you're going to follow the pattern. It will tell you to knit to wherever, and then the smock stitches are going to be worked. Oh sorry, I need to use the other color to show you what's going on. The smock stitches are going to be over 3 stitches.
Okay, so I actually made a mistake here and I said it's worked over 3 stitches in the pattern. It's actually worked over 5, but that's okay. You still do the same techniques except over 5 stitches instead of 3. And I also say that those stitches are knit. They're not. They're worked in whatever the pattern tells you that they are worked in. I only did it as a knit stitch here for the demonstration, but I think it's a combination of knits and purls in the actual Rome socks pattern. But there again, this same technique can be done with whatever stitch pattern you're working with. The actual smocking technique is the important thing to keep in mind.
So these are the 3 stitches I want to do the smocking on. So you've knit them, and then the way what the pattern tells you to do is to slip them onto a cable needle, or in my case I just have a DPN. You slip those over, okay, and then with the yarn that you're knitting with, you're just going to wrap it around those stitches twice. So you wrap it around the cable needle. So that's 1 wrap, and you do it 1 more time. That's the 2nd wrap, and then you slip these stitches back onto the right needle because you've already knit them. Okay. Alright, so they've got 2 wraps on it, so you can see 2 strands, and then you're just going to tug it a little bit so it's taut but not tight. You don't want to like do that. You don't want to strangle them. You want it to be snug but not, you know, so tight. Pull that out there because that was a bit much. That was a bit aggressive. So yeah, you just want to make sure those 3 stitches are still looking like 3 stitches. Sorry about the focus. I'm trying to adjust this. Alright, and then you just make sure it's tight. You don't want like big loopy loops hanging there like that. You just want it to be nice and neat. Okay, and then you just continue to knit. Okay, so that's the first method. That's the method that is described in the pattern. But quite frankly, I think involving a cable needle is a little bit more faff than it needs to be, especially when you're knitting on socks. You've got tiny stitches, and it's just a lot of faff for something that doesn't need to be that complicated. So I'll show you again here. So let's say these are the 3 stitches we want to smock. One option is to just slip the stitches back and forth between your 2 needles and move the yarn. So what I would do here is knit those 3 stitches and then slip them back to your left needle, bring the working yarn to the front, slip them back to the right needle, pass the yarn around. So there's your first wrap. Then slip those stitches back to the left needle, bring the yarn to the front, and finally slip them back to the right needle, and then bring the yarn around, and there's your second wrap. Okay, that's the second way of doing it. So instead of using a cable needle, you're just passing the stitches back and forth across the two needles that you're using. Then I'll go to the other side and show you the third method, and this is actually my preferred method. And it works because you're using the same color yarn. If you're using a different colored yarn like I am here, it's a little bit more noticeable, this one, than the others, but because you're going to be doing it all in the same color yarn, it is fine. So we're going to knit the 3 stitches that we're going to do the smocking around. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Okay, so knit the 3 stitches that you're going to smock, and then instead of passing anything around anything, you don't have to move any stitches. You just take your left needle and you put it in between the 3rd and the 4th stitch on your right needle, just between the stitches, under the needle between the stitches, like that. So you're not going into any stitches at all, like you're just going in the gap between the 2 stitches. Okay, you're going to wrap the yarn around it, and then sometimes I'll use my other hand to make sure it's got a loop there, and then you're going to pull that yarn through the other side like that, and there's your 2 wraps already there. And then I leave a little bit of space here because I don't want it to be too tight again, but it looks a bit taut at the moment. Looks a bit more tight than I want it, so I leave a bit of space, and then I just knit this loop that I've pulled through together with the next stitch on my needle, and just sort of snug it up a little bit. And like I said, when you do it with a contrasting when you have a contrasting color, you can kind of see that a bit more, but when you do it with the same color yarn, you don't notice it at all. It looks exactly the same as all the other stitches, all the other methods, and this is by far the quickest way of doing it, and this is the method that I used when I knit the socks for the pattern. So I'll show you one more time. 1, 2, 3. Let's smock it here. So you want to get the needle, put it between the 3rd and 4th stitch, just in the gap between the stitches. Okay, you're not going into any stitches. Wrap the yarn around, pull it through, and there you've got your 2 wraps, and then you're just going to knit that loop that you've pulled through together with the next stitch as a knit 2 together sort of thing. Okay, and then you can sort of play around with the tension and neaten it up, but again, on the scale of knitting socks and stuff, it'll be a lot neater and you won't notice it as much. Okay, that was it. 3 ways of doing the smock stitch, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful, and hope there's a method in there that would work for you. By all means, use whichever of the 3 methods you're most comfortable with. If you're more comfortable using a cable needle or a DPN, by all means do that. Don't feel like you have to do it the way I prefer to do it. That's why I've done this video, to show you 3 different options so you can pick which one works for you. I also like the one where you pass the stitches back and forth between the 2 needles. I've done that before when I've done a smock stitch type of texture in my knitting, and it's definitely an easy one to do as well once you get into the rhythm of it. Alright, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy knitting these socks, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!